Very recently, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced that United Kingdom will recognize the state of Palestine in the upcoming September UN General Assembly.
Recognition of a Palestinian state has to be one of those steps. I'm unequivocal about that. That recognition is a tool of maximum impact to improve the lives of those who are suffering. And that must always be our ultimate goal.
Unless Israel agrees to certain conditions. The first condition is that Israel must agree to Gaza ceasefire. Second condition is to facilitate more humanitarian aid towards Gaza and also towards commitment of a two-state peace process. If these conditions are not agreed to by Israel, United Kingdom by September of this particular year would formally recognize the state of Palestine. Now, this is a huge blow for United States of America and Israel as a whole. Now, following the announcement of British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the French President Emmanuel Macron has also formally decided to recognize the state of Palestine.
I believe in the future of the two-state solution. I believe in the need to unite our voices in Paris, London, and everywhere else to recognize a Palestinian state and initiate this political dynamic, which is the only one consistent with a perspective of peace.
Which means France would also formally recognize the state of Palestine in September of this particular year. And alongside this, two major countries of Canada and Portugal have also come forward with similar intentions.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Now, as 21-month-long Gaza conflict continues, Israel is facing mounting diplomatic challenges from its Western counterparts. Increasing number of its traditional Western allies have been shifting towards supporting Palestinian statehood now because of the stretching of this war again ahead of its own course. See, out of 193 UN members right now, around 147 member states or member countries formally recognize Palestine. But major Western powers have long resisted to recognize Palestine as a state, linking recognition of it to final Israel-Palestine peace settlement, which is why they have not yet recognized Palestine as a state. But this stance now seems to be shifting because Russia and China both have formally recognized Palestine already, which means 2 members out of 5 members of UN Security Council, the permanent 5 members, out of that 2 members already recognize Palestine. And now UK and France are saying that by September of this year, in UN General Assembly, they would recognize the state of Palestine, which means if France and UK joins the group, then it is France, UK, Russia and China, 4 countries out of P5 countries recognizing Palestine. And 1 country, US, would be diplomatically left out, and hence it would be isolating itself diplomatically. Also, the inclusion of France, UK and Canada were key G7 members. It adds a significant weight and potentially it influences others to follow their regime as well. Now, while other countries we can still understand, but Britain's move, United Kingdom's move to formally recognize Palestine is a very historic move because of its central role in Israel-Palestine conflict since the 1907 Balfour Declaration, which basically endorsed creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. And since then, several other conflicts in the region happened. And after the World War II, Israel as a country was established, and eventually different other conflicts between Israel and Palestine continued, which are being continuing since then till this date, that is 2025. So what this issue is all about, what is Balfour Declaration, why these countries recognizing the state of Palestine is very important in global geopolitics, what is India's stance in this regard, all these things we'll be trying to understand in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. See, while the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that by September, UK would be recognizing Palestine state, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he reacted very furiously to the announcement, saying that this decision, it rewarded Hamas' monstrous terrorism. Now the question is, what does this recognition of Palestine state means actually? And how it is important for the geopolitics and how well it will function for the other countries to follow the lead and for the solution of this Israel-Palestine conflict. How it will be helpful. See, first of all, you need to understand that Palestine is a state that does and does not exist simultaneously. See, Palestine has a large degree of international recognition. It is having international missions abroad and also teams that compete in sporting competitions, even in Olympics. But due to Palestine's long-term dispute with Israel, its boundary is not very clearly demarcated, and which is why it is not having any internationally agreed boundary. It is having no army. It is having no capital as well. Now, because of Israel's military occupation in the West Bank and the recent events happening in Gaza, because there is no international boundary, given its status of a kind of a quasi-state, we can say, recognition of Palestine is inevitably a very symbolic event, or somewhat it's symbolic. So basically, it would make a very strong moral and political statement, but very little would change on the ground. But the symbolism is very, very strong. Because as Foreign Secretary David Lammy has pointed out during the speech to UN on Tuesday, he says that Britain bears a very special burden of responsibility to support the two-state solution. And why Britain bears a very special burden? It is because of the 1917 Balfour Declaration. Now let us come to what is this Balfour Declaration. So in the November of 1917, the British Foreign Secretary at that time, Sir Arthur Balfour, issued a declaration to a Zionist leader, Lord Lionel Walter Rothschild. Now this Balfour Declaration, it marked the UK's official support for establishing a Jewish state or a Jewish national home in Palestine region. So official support of UK was given for formation of a Jewish home in Palestine in 1917 under this Balfour Declaration. And who was Sir Balfour? He was the Foreign Secretary of UK at that point of time. Now at that time we have to see that Palestine region was under Ottoman Empire, under Ottoman rule. Now at that time we have to see the Palestine region was under Ottoman Empire, under Ottoman rule. And there were 9% of the population was around Jewish. So UK gave a declaration of formation of a Jewish national homeland in the area of Palestine. That was what was given in the year 1917. And the declaration was based on the fact that Britain wanted to gain support from Jewish all across the world before the World War I. And see, this declaration was basically driven by the fact that Britain wanted to gain support from Jews all over the world during the World War I period. Now, because of that also, and even before that in 1903, like the Uganda Plan or several other instances as well, where UK had proposed different alternatives for Jewish homeland, but eventually they were abandoned. And eventually in 1917, this Balfour Declaration was put forward by UK, whereby it proposed Palestine as a Jewish homeland. By the way, one important thing to note here is that this Balfour Declaration was also endorsed by US later on, and it became a pivotal moment in the Zionist history of the world. And it legitimized, and it was a very instrumental event, a significant event in legitimizing the claim of Jewish people to the area of Palestine and shifting the geopolitical future of the region in entirety. Now, since we have understood what is Balfour Declaration and what was the role of UK in starting off this all entire thing of Jews and Palestine region and associating these two regions together and associating these two things together, now let us try to understand what was Britain's role in shaping post-war Palestine and the birth of Israel. See, after World War I, Britain found itself amidst two conflicting promises which they had made. One was the support of Jewish homeland in Palestine, and second was the promise of Arab independence. However, one important thing to note here is that the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement with France had already divided the Ottoman empires between them, or Ottoman territories between them. So what did Britain do? Britain established a colonial administration in Palestine under a League of Nations mandate, facilitating increased Jewish migration in the region and also creation of a parallel Jewish institute, including paramilitary groups in the region. And by the end of World War II, we could see that Jews would be around 30% of the population in the Palestine region. And by then, Britain had become very, very weak. And they realized that the mandate which is given to them is actually impossible, which is why they backed from the idea of partition. And in the year 1947 itself, Britain informed the United Nations to end the mandate by May of 15th, 1948. But one day prior to that, that is 14th of May 1948, Zionist leaders unilaterally declared the establishment of Israel. And this was immediately recognized by the United States of America, which eventually led to the first Israel-Arab War. And which is why this whole chronology of events tells us that right now, if Britain is recognizing the state of Palestine, which means that it is recognizing the two-state solution, which India also, since the last many decades, has given its official stance that we significantly push towards a two-state solution, that there should be a separate Palestine state, there should be a separate Israel state. And alongside this, we have time and again suggested that any violence by any of the parties in the region is to be strongly condemned. So conclusively, we can simply say that Britain's decision to recognize Palestine 108 years after Balfour Declaration, it carries a profound symbolic weight. And given its historic role in the Israel-Palestine conflict, this is a significant watershed moment in the history. Now, while the recognition, it may not alter Israel's occupation of the region significantly and at the same time, but it will signify a major change in the British policy stances. So while Israel in the recent times have been facing global accusations against atrocities, against genocide and harrowing images of whatever Israel's actions are there being perpetrated in Gaza, Western countries have decided amongst themselves that they can't support Israel for eternity. They can't be supporting Israel for all the actions which they undertake. Because see, Israel is to be supported only in case of actions which Israel talks or Israel discusses with the partners. Multiple instances we have seen where Israel has not even informed US before conducting an operation. So which is why it had become increasingly untenable for the Western countries, including the UK, to support Israel unconditionally. And which is why this recent Britain's move, or Canada's move, or France's move, it reflects the growing international pressure for moving towards a more balanced approach towards the Palestinian cause. And the solution of this Israel-Hamas issue, or Israel-Gaza issue, or Israel-Palestine issue. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. Do let me know what are your views surrounding this particular issue, and what would be the ramifications, and what would be the response of US in this regard. Do let me know in the comment section. All the very best and have a beautiful day. Thank you.